Hi, I'm Blair Hislop. I'm the co-CEO and co-owner of Mrs. Dunster's Bakery. We're the largest commercial bakery in Atlantic Canada. Mrs. Dunster started in 1968 by Ingrid Dunster. She started making donuts 6 at a time in a cast iron pot in her kitchen, and today we would go to more than 1,000 grocery stores across Canada, in New England, and in Atlantic Canada. My wife Rosalind and I took over in 2014. At that point, I think we had 50 employees. 11 years later, we're 6 times larger than we were when we started. We've grown an average of 20% a year, so we've doubled almost 3 times in 11 years. We have 2 bakeries. So one bakery, the bakery we're in today, is in Moncton, New Brunswick, which is basically a fresh bread and roll bakery. And then in Sussex, New Brunswick, where our head office is, we have a sweet goods bakery. And there we're most famous for our donuts, using Ingrid Dunster's grandmother's recipe. So, it's your grandmother's donut the way your grandmother would have made it. But both businesses are growing really fast. And so in the Moncton facility that we're sitting in here today, we were running at 25% capacity when we opened, and today we're running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We had some challenges with some equipment that we had that wasn't performing as well as we needed it to. But unlike some of the larger bakeries, we have one line, right, for bread and one line for rolls. So we need the equipment to be reliable and dependable. But nonetheless, sometimes you come across a piece of equipment that isn't as reliable as you would hope. And so that was the circumstance. So when that happened, it just seemed a natural step for us to call Reiser. And Reiser came in with a new roll divider for us that not only is reliable and dependable and accurate all of the time, it also has significant increased capacity for us to accommodate our growth.
Reiser sent in their team of bakery specialists and technicians to set up this new line. Now, although this line is set up specifically as a bun line, we sent in our VMAG HP with a 6-lane flow divider. So the VMAG portions out through the 6 lanes into our servo cutter, and the servo cutter divides all the individual portions with very high weight accuracy, and more importantly, all of this without any divider oil. The patented double screw technology that the VMAG offers can handle both soft and stiff doughs with hydration levels between 45 and 95%. So the VMAG line can be set up for breads, buns, pizza doughs, English muffins, and a lot more.
The machine itself is easy to operate, it's very consistent and reliable, and the ease of introduction to the operators has really been one of its winning qualities. Granted, this machine makes a variety of different products, but on average, we've seen a 40% increase in productivity through a combination of increased throughput, a reduction in labor, and a significant reduction in waste and rework. Between the Reiser team and our Mrs. Dunster's team, we got a great collaboration going, and this unit now runs pretty much day in, day out without issue, giving us consistent quality on our products. We're very happy with the process. Our process starts with our mixing team preparing the batches using our approved recipes. The batches are then dumped into dough caddies, which are then brought over to the VMAG, elevated, and dumped into the cone. At the bottom of the cone, we have twin screws that then move the dough through the water wheel, extruding out of the water wheel, and a slicing knife portions off. This is extremely reliable and repeatable. We find in our day-to-day operation, the consistency remains within a half a gram, both within a lane and across lanes, which is excellent for waste reduction and for rework. So the product comes out, it moves along a rounding bar, forming the dough into a tight roll so that it'll come down a zigzag table and then be deposited into an intermittent proofer. Now, we've just worked this dough pretty aggressively. So before we continue the process, it takes a journey in the intermittent proofer to allow the dough to rest and prepare itself for the next phase of molding. So after approximately 7 to 12 minutes, depending on the product type in the intermittent proofer, we are pulling down from the proofer, and we begin molding. In this instance, we're making sub buns. So we are going to take that round ball, We are going to flatten it. Then we are going to roll it. We're going to seam it, which rounds it out to remove the seam from the rolling. And then we pan it. After the panning process, it moves on to proofing, baking, and packaging. It all comes down to productivity, ease of operation, reliability, and consistency. Inaccuracy across an entire week and a month and a year adds up very quickly. So finding a unit that we could invest the time and effort to dial in, but then trust that it would maintain was really the ultimate goal. You know, as I mentioned, we saw a 40% increase in our productivity over our former line, but we're still only operating on the lower half of this unit. So we still have lots of up-end capacity that we could leverage as we continue to grow.
You know, equipment and production processes can change. So we had to work very closely with Reiser to make sure that the product coming off the end of the line was the same as the product we had before we weren't using that equipment. And I would say that in this facility, it's one of, if not the most reliable piece of equipment we have today. You know, we'll have to make investments further down the line to be able to keep up with the Reiser equipment, but that piece of equipment is going to serve us well, hopefully for 50 years.